Good evening, everybody. This is Great Cowboys 1964, and beside me is Mr. Bill Carroll.
Good to see you, my friend. I hope all is well.
Yeah, all is going fine. Did you watch the launch?
I was at work.
Are you at work? Okay, so yeah, you didn't get to see the big flight. It was a very nice start. So
yeah, my daughter watched it and she told me about it.
Yeah, I wish the four astronauts very well, and we'll see what the dark side of the moon looks like.
Correct.
Yeah. So we're going to discuss how teams build an NFL draft board. Now, I do have that visual, but it's not very, very good. So what we're going to do here is because, of course, this is the 2016 Dallas Cowboys draft board, but basically what it shows you here is they had 16 players ranked in round one. Right. Then they had, the up to 41 guys in round two, and so on and so forth. But that is the basic way an NFL draft board is built. So it's unlike what we do as scouts, right? Because we have a whole whack of players. This year, how many first-round guys do you have?
I have about 14-ish at the moment.
I've got one less than you.
Yeah, not all the Haley's in the barn yet, but yeah, I'll probably end up around that number. I don't foresee a last minute. I mean, there might be. I can't rule it out. But at the moment, 14 with another, at the most 2. But I think I'll probably end up at 14.
Yeah. Currently, I'm at 13 guys, and I don't see myself switching. I just don't. Now, of course, in the 2016 draft, the Cowboys took Ezekiel Elliott with the 4th pick overall, right?
Right.
They also had Paxton Lynch as a first-round player.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
There were some misses on their board that year. Let's put it that way. But they did have Jalen Ramsey as the 1-5. They had Laramie Tunsil as 113. Joey Bosa was the 3rd-ranked player. They got the right spot, Jared Goff and Carson Wentz, who went 1-2. Then they also had Jalen Smith in their first-round category.
Yep.
Who ended up being their first pick in the 2nd round.
Right.
So that basically means to me is that the Cowboys coaches and the scouts and everybody who's getting together at that particular time, they really like Jalen Smith.
Right.
Obviously, right?
Yeah.
Who's a 2nd-round guy you would put into a first-round board?
So a 2nd-round player, a player who probably will go in the 2nd round that I would take in the 1st?
Yeah.
Well,
and judging that we're talking, we'll talk to Cowboys because they've got 2 picks in the 1st round, right?
Right.
So you got pick 12 and pick 20.
Right.
So more than likely at pick 20.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably more than one, but
yeah.
And this year, the as you just mentioned, the dividing line between 1st and 2nd, especially the second half of the 1st and the early 2nd, is a very thin, permeable membrane between the 2.
Yeah.
But I would have absolutely zero problems taking a player like Trey Stooks, who I have a 2nd round grade on, but in the late 1st, why wouldn't I? right? There's a lot of players that I have second round grades on that I think will go in the first, as we just talked about.
My guy is still going to be Malachi Lawrence for the UCF Edge. I just love his tape. I love his tape. And I could see somebody later on in round one actually taking Malachi Lawrence, who I would act currently as my probably 7th or 8th guy overall in the second round. I could see him being a first round pick.
I'll throw out a couple of offensive line names, and I think we may see guys get pushed up.
Yeah,
a guy like Inacho might end up in the first round. In fact, he's a second round player, in my opinion, but I think the paucity of left tackles, particularly, is going to push some of those borderline guys who could play left tackle into the first. And going back to the offensive line, I think a guy like Pregnon, like Emmanuel Pregnon, who is a terrific guard.
Yeah.
But once again, a second round player. But once again, there's not enough first round players. And if you need a guard and you're afraid he might not be there when you pick in the second round, I could see a team, especially a contender, saying, what the heck, we're going to take him at, here late in the first.
Yeah. Like if the Chiefs, who need offensive line help.
Correct.
At the 29th pick. Oh, hello. Pregnon's here. That's who we're taking, right?
Right. Exactly. I could see a team just saying, what the heck? Why mess around with it?
Yeah.
We could try to trade back in and all this stuff, but why bother?
Yeah.
Let's just
let's
just pull the trigger right here.
But again, my whole point in this episode is how NFL teams actually build their boards, right, Bill? In 2016, the Cowboys had 16 guys in with round one grades.
Right.
So, there was 31 teams at the time.
Right.
So there was 15 guys who were not going to be first round graded players by the Cowboys who were selected in round one.
Right.
Then, of course, in round two, they go from pick 17 up to pick 40. So they got 33 guys in round two.
Right.
Right. I think this year's draft, you're going to see a lot more names in the second round than the 33. Because again, if you're a positional value type team, you don't have any quarterbacks, you don't have a left tackle. The edge guys, there could be, like I mentioned already, Malachi Lawrence. But this draft is full of linebackers and safeties, and another group of wide receivers as well. After we got Tate and Tyson and Malachi Lemon out of the way,
right?
I think there's going to be a larger group in round two this year.
Yeah, I think that the meat of the draft is rounds 2 through 4.
Yeah.
I think that you will see some of the best players, in fact, in this draft will go rounds 2 through 4.
Yeah.
There will be players who will have very long, very successful, multiple Pro Bowl, maybe even once or twice, all pro types in rounds 2 through 4.
Yeah, indeed. And this is the reason why we talk about these sort of things to everybody out there. It's because everybody focuses in on round one or the top 100 guys. These are the only guys who can complete. Really? Because in round 4 for the Dallas Cowboys in 2016, they drafted Charles Tapper first.
Right.
And then they got some guy named Dak Prescott in round 4 later on. I think Mr. Prescott has been a decent quarterback in the NFL.
I would say that he has outperformed where he was drafted.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, thank God Paxton Lynch was not taken by Jerry. Thank you. And everybody can discuss the Ezekiel Elliott, the second contract, and all that other BS and stuff. Right. I still say Ezekiel Elliott's career was ruined because Mike McCarthy decided to run him up that A gap only. Are you kidding me? You cannot do that.
Right.
The guy's body took an absolute pounding.
Right. But nevertheless, he had a long, successful NFL career. Running backs, most don't get to a second contract. So
that's right.
Simply by getting that second contract, that is by every definition that most people have for an NFL running back's career, is a successful career. And to sort of walk people through the process, this process begins many, 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 many months ago. And we talk about quote unquote summer scouting, and the summer scouting list can be literally 600 to 700 names, right?
Well, mine was 515 this year.
Right. And it's not unusual for it to be 600 for our team to have 600, 700, somebody's even 700 names to start with. And so it's like the old line that I think it might have been Michelangelo had about, all I have to do is take away the extra stone. That's somebody asked him, like, what's this process of making a sculpture? Well, I pick out the stone, then it's to take away all the extra pieces.
That's right.
It's sort of like the same process. You have this monolith, 600, 700 names, you chip away. And so you have initial grading, and it's initially just a first blush, a carryover from the year before, and then that early impressions from the new season.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's maybe first round. They may just say day 1, day 2. But they are giving that first upload of information into the team's database. Then this next step, probably towards close to the halfway point of the college football season, is that first round of positional rankings.
Yeah.
Which will change probably, 2 or 3 more times, but initially getting it in there. They rank players within each position and then later assess positional depth to help them assess both positional depth and also the value in this particular draft at certain positions. And here's where the fun begins, Greg and everyone else out there. Cross-positional comparisons.
Yep.
So your senior personnel, right? Your directors and assistant directors and whoever ride in after the scouts have been, and even scouting assistants in some cases have been just sort of busily cramming in information into the system. They look at the top players across positions to create the first version of a single ordered board. And ironically, it will get smaller, right? The first version has more names. The final version.
Yeah.
Names get eliminated. It could be medical. It could be off field. It can be they find out a guy is too big or too small or too, arms are too short or whatever it is. Or through free agency or whatever, they decide that they don't need to worry about that position. A bunch of things happen. But you have the board that's closest to maybe what your friend who thinks of themselves as an evaluator has. Even then, it's probably smaller than that person if they're fairly serious. But they still haven't trimmed away the fat, so to speak.
That's right.
Now the coaches start to get involved, which is either very good or very bad, depending upon what your coach is.
I say for the most part, it's very bad because
it often can be very bad.
This is the thing that drives me insane. These guys are NFL coaches. They have no idea what's being done at a college. They have no idea what the coaching level at a college is because their game is different. They don't understand. They don't understand how college kids actually have to go to classes and things like that. They don't understand that. And again, let's go back to the Mozzie Smith, Luke Schoonmaker draft for the Cowboys. What are you doing?
Right. So what happens is the coaches get involved, and they have a child who goes to University X, and they go to a game, right? Yep. Or they watch a game on TV, or they have a friend who's a coach who says, "Man, you got to check this kid out. I got this amazing kid." Or our team played against this kid who's an absolute monster. You got to check him out.
Yep.
So they go off of usually a 1 or 2 game sample size of a particular player that's been pushed into their view, right? They've tripped across this player by semi-accident. It is not unlike the very, very structured, very multi-layered, multi-process system we just talked about. This is the most ad hoc, to use a military term, grab, blast, something tick process you can imagine. And it works against It works against all the things that one would normally do in the process. And then last but not least, this is where you get your final board, the one that you just showed or tried to show from 2016. Elimination and focus, trimmed down from the giant list. We already got to the smaller list. Now from the smaller list to the final list, which in many cases is sometimes under 100 players, at most somewhere in the slightly over 100 to maybe 100, maybe mid 100, 150-ish list. So that meetings are manageable as you discuss these players, because you can't discuss 600, 700 players. You can't discuss 500 players. You're lucky if you get through 160.
That's right.
And so that's how you get down to that final. Because by this point, your doctors have been involved, your coaches have been involved, everyone's been your investigators, who may be ex-Secret Service or ex-sheriff's deputy or they're usually ex-police or ex-whatever, some sort, have done background investigations. All the players you're truly interested in.
That's right.
So you don't get any unpleasant surprises at the end, right? So that's why you end up, once again, those that are left are the players that fit your team in terms of scheme. In terms of any guide rails or guidelines you have about age and height, weight, whatever, speed, all those things, have checked out in terms of off the field. And finally, at the very, very end, are players that you are interested in taking if you have the opportunity to do so.
Bingo. This draft board for 7 rounds for the Cowboys ended up at 149 players.
Right.
And there was 251 guys drafted that year. So, there's 100 less players on the Cowboys draft board than are going to be selected. And this is the thing that people don't get, right? They don't understand that this draft board is designed to be effective for your team only. Right?
Yes.
Right. The way that the Cowboys do theirs is they use a 1-1, a 1-2, a 1-3, blah blah blah, right? And they do that in every round. So in round 2, their 1-1 player was Jalen Smith.
Right.
There, and then they go down the list, blah blah blah, and away we go. But again, it's interesting to see the players who are actually higher to go later on in the draft. Like I said before, Kayvon Frazier and Anthony Brown were both ranked in the 4th round by the Cowboys. They got them both in the 6th round.
Yep.
I mean, they had no pick in the 5th round that year.
Yep.
Right? So you're going, are these guys going to be there? And that's when scouts go, oh yeah, we got our guy. We got our guy. I mean, that's when they're jumping for joy.
Yes, and towards the end, right, after the debating and the slotting and everything else, you have some people use sort of like, I guess, the Socratic method, right? Ron Wolf was famous for that. He didn't care if you were a scouting assistant, right? He didn't care if you were, a 22-year-old guy who was playing months ago. He believed everyone should be involved in the process. And that's not every place, right? I'll make it clear that not every team does this. Some teams only want to hear from certain people. But Ron Wolf and his process.
That is the Bengals, the smallest scouting staff in the league, and everything else. They don't talk to anybody. It's just away they go. That's what they do.
Yep. But yes, and they have increased their staff. Now they're not all full timers, but they have doubled their staff over what it was when Marvin Lewis took the job. 20, and now I guess it's over 20 years ago. When he came in, he thought they were joking when he saw.
No.
And he was
like I mentioned last week, Brian Broaddus only had himself and 4 scouts in the 98 draft for the Eagles that he actually ran.
Yep.
And Jeff Lurie, said, no, you're not taking Randy Moss, blah, 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 which was a bit of a fight. But again, brought us, okay, you're the boss, we're not taking Randy Moss. But that draft was so good for the Eagles.
Yes.
And the coaches were not involved. It was heavenly. This is why I don't like NFL coaches getting involved. I think NFL coaches need to spend time with their current roster in the off season. Don't go watching these college kids. No. You let the scouts do that, okay? So what did you make of Mr. McCoy's performance yesterday?
It's about what I'd expected. I had, studied him. I think I had estimated that I thought he'd be run somewhere between 4.35 and 4.41 is what I had in my notes prior to. He basically checked off all the boxes. Yeah, he showed that he could turn and cut. He showed that he could explode, and that was really only questions that we had. He had a rather slow and painstaking recovery. And once again, there's still some teams that will have a little,
X. They will
exactly. Not every team will evaluate. Not how impressive that was. Not every team will evaluate the same way.
And I'm hearing he still has that red star beside his name because he's going to be considered a guy who needs more rehab, et cetera, before the season begins. And that's why the Dallas Cowboys do not want Jermod McCoy.
Right. There are some teams
they don't want another Siobhan Ravel or scenario happening this year.
I use the term guidelines and guardrails.
Yeah.
And the difference is how firm they are, right?
That's right.
Every team has some sort of guiding mentality around who they decide to draft and not to draft. Some teams truly value, and it may sound silly or funny or whatever, but some teams truly value guys that grew up with a father in the home. Now, you may say, what does that have to do with playing football? I get that. But there are teams that put like a special little, I don't know, whatever term you want to use, little check, little whatever behind guys that grew up with a father, even if it wasn't their biological father.
That's right.
Grew up with a father figure.
That's right.
In their home. They truly believe it makes a difference. There are teams that truly value bloodlines. Did you have a close relative that played in the league? Once again, I don't care either way, but there are teams that care about that. It's not a huge thing, but some of them use it almost like a tiebreaker. If there's two players they like about the same, they may look at things like family background. Do you have family members who play in the league? Some teams really value guys who are multiple sport athletes, right?
That's right.
The 49ers care about that. There's some other teams that care about that. Some teams don't, right? Some teams don't care if all you played is football since you were 5 years old, and there are guys like that. South Florida,
I was happy when the Cowboys took Odigizua and Golston that year because both wrestled. They were wrestlers.
Yep.
Wrestlers understand what? Leverage. They understand that. That's the important thing.
Flexibility also. Yeah.
That's right.
Lower body flexibility. You can't be a wrestler if you've got a stiff lower body.
Yeah.
It won't work out. I can speak from painful experience. But and eventually when you get to the end, you're putting together what they call cheat sheets and your player cards. And essentially, when you get close to the end, you may have to make a decision very, very quickly about what you're going to do. Teams, just like you and I and your friend who's obsessed with the draft, run simulations or mock drafts, sometimes hundreds of them. And now that you've got AI, you can run millions of them if you really want to. In the old days, it would be people sitting in a room doing it. And you would do it, every day for the last couple of months leading up to the draft, several times a day sometimes. But now you could, tell a computer to do all that and then spit out, the results to you, all the different results to see which things come up the most often. And you sort of use that as your trend analysis.
Well, I was doing that after McCoy's pro day numbers came out. And, remember our mock draft that we did with Zenny on the weekend? Right. And all those defensive guys that the Cowboys would love to at 12 were gone, right?
Right.
McCoy was going at 10, at 11.
Yep.
Delane was going earlier. Downs was gone. Bain, Bailey, Reese, Styles, they're all leaving the board off the bat. I'm going, oh, no. No. But in some of them, Caleb Downs was falling down to the Cowboys, and in the others, Jeremiah Love was falling. And I'm just
Right.
like, huh?
I'm just telling you, I won't be shocked if Love goes a little later than people think. And he's a really good player. I want to make it very clear. He's gonna have a terrific career.
Well, okay, in your top 13 guys, what number is Jeremiah Love?
I think he's 11 for me.
Oh, in your stack?
I think I'd have to go back and look to be sure, but I think he's at 11 for me. I think he can go as early as 7.
Yeah, but
I don't think he makes it.
I'm talking about your players in order. Like your 1-1 is obviously Mendoza, right?
Yes.
So who's your 1-2?
That's changed several times.
Yeah. Is it Reese or Kyle?
At various points, it has been the following players. It has at times been David Bailey. It has at times been Ruben Bain. It has at times been
Arvell Reese.
Yes, at times been Arvell Reese. Though lately Reese has been going a little, has been not sliding, but I think as I've studied Arvell Reese more and more, I think he's more like a better KJ Wright than he is what people are. I hear a lot of names thrown around there, and I think he's more like a more athletic KJ Wright than he is like a lot of the players he's being compared to. I don't think he's ever going to be an elite pass rusher. I don't think he's ever going to be a guy who puts up back to back, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12, like 13. Like, I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think he'll ever be that. If you're fine with a guy getting 6.5 to 8 sacks, and mostly being a closer to a real linebacker, I think he's more like a linebacker than he is like a true pass rusher, a pure pass rusher.
And why everybody had him down as an edge early on? Going, did you not watch him in the playoff when he was on the edge? Because boy, he got swallowed up by left tackles, left, right, and center. And what were teams doing? They were running onto that side of the field because he doesn't understand how to set the edge.
Right.
Much like that number 11 guy that used to play in Dallas.
So I like him more as a linebacker that you, in certain packages, you have him, put his go out to wide 9, put his hand in the dirt, and just run around people. Right. I think that's what he's really good at. And he can convert speed to power. I'm going to make it clear. He can convert. He's not just an S player. He can convert speed to power, but he doesn't really have a real array of pass rush moves. And people always say, well, that can be learned. And I'm not disagreeing that it can be, but how many guys who have almost no pass rush moves develop a really great array of pass rush moves in the NFL? It's a lot to make up. Like Von Miller, right, was a guy that had 4 or 5 killer moves already.
Bingo. Yeah.
And then he added like 7 more in his NFL career. Even Danielle Hunter, right? Danielle Hunter is the guy that people talk about being raw.
Yeah.
And he was raw, but he was an actual defensive lineman. Like, he was a real defensive lineman.
But he had 3 solid moves in college. Right. He had 3 of them.
He was an actual defensive lineman, but he also had 3 really solid moves coming out.
Bingo. And he's added to that. That's where the difference is for Arvell Reese. He has no idea how to do any of that. He doesn't.
If you want to play him like a traditional down lineman, I would recommend that a round later you look at Zion Young, right? I mean, if you're really an actual defense down lineman, a real down lineman. Now, if you are creative, and this is where it comes down to, once again, what we're about to talk about in a moment, you have to know what your team is, right? Because not just what the player is, you have to know what your team is. What is your team like? What do you do with players? So when they put together what I call the cheat sheet, the player card, you've taken the full scouting report, you've boiled it down to something that can be read literally in 1 or 2 sentences. And it has height, weight, medical grade, mental grade, or character grade, or whatever your team calls it, and scheme notes, right? What he has done and what you think he can do soon or quickly in his NFL career. And that's towards that end, right? We're getting close to draft day. You're giving this to the people that will be actually in the room. And then you also, last but not least, you have your trade planning, right? If this happens, if somebody jumps ahead of us and takes this player, if somebody trades down, if somebody wants to trade up into our spot or trade down into our spot, what do we want in return? And what is our dump button? Like at what point do we hang up, right? What is enough to keep us negotiating, like talking, and what's enough to say no thank you, right? So you have to sort of know where your cutoff point is.
Well,
so make a deal on a car.
Here were the Cowboys with the 10th pick overall, and their two corners, Thorne and Surtain, go right in front of them. So what did they do? They moved down 2 spots with Philadelphia.
Yep.
They screw the other division team, namely the Giants, by making this move. They go down to 12, and they go to their next BPA, who at that time was Micah Parsons.
Right. Right.
So that's the secret to being able to maneuver in the draft, right?
Yep.
And then of course you always have your misses that everybody harps on. Like I continue to say, the 2 guys from that school up north that were taken by the why?
Yeah.
You heard me on the Draft Central program. Why? He doesn't get off the ball. In Mossy Smith's case, and Schoonmaker was already 25 and he'd been injured.
Yeah.
Like, come on, no.
I know.
I knew that whole draft was a nightmare.
I made similar sounds when we took Kenny Pickett. I feel your pain. And I remember when we were trading up a couple of years ago, and Christian Gonzalez was like coming down towards us, and I got so excited, like, oh my God. We rarely trade up. And and Gonzalez is coming towards us, and we needed a corner. And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to get Christian Gonzalez. I was so excited. And then we took Broderick, who's not a terrible football player, but I would, in the open market, in an open trade market, you would not get him straight up for Christian Gonzalez in any scenario. So I was a little disappointed with that. Other things that you work on, or you try to avoid, or you police up, or whatever term you want to use when you're putting together and working on finalizing these things, when you're putting together a board, you want to have a certain balance of data, hard numbers, factual stuff. That's the height, the weight, the speed, the numbers about, solo tackles versus assist and pass breakups, and how many times you saw this guy do a skip pull versus a full pull versus, how many times did he pull to the left? How many times did he pull to the right? How many times did he actually execute a block in space if he was out on a screen or things like that? Numbers, counting.
Yeah.
And then stuff that your notes that come from game tape and things like that. You have to balance those things. We talked about risk management, whether it be character, medical, a guy who changed position late in his development, right?
Exactly.
People got excited about Braxton Miller when he was coming out of Ohio State because he had a quote unquote great week at the Senior Bowl. But I was there at that Senior Bowl, Greg, and I made a note of what I called his and one mixtape of release moves.
Yeah.
The problem is that while they were impressive, they took too long.
That's right.
And so by the time he'd execute all these things, your quarterback would be being flushed in the pocket or be lying underneath somebody or be having to throw the ball away already.
Yep.
And so while it's exciting to talk about player conversions and they're fun to discuss, they work out, especially late ones, far less often than people would imagine.
Yeah.
So that is at least orange, if not full-on red flag. So people like to imagine, what what Taylon Green might be, right? And it works out sometimes, but it doesn't always work.
Taylon Green could be a very good quarterback in the NFL,
possibly,
as long as he gets a good group of coaching around him who will teach him how to process the game. He has no idea how to process. His arm is fine.
Yes, his arm might be the best arm in the class, Greg. He's certainly one of the best,
except for his long throw.
Right, that's the issue. Yeah.
Right. If he could tighten up his release, then yes, then he could definitely have the best arm in the entire country. But again, his leg game, his running game is so good. I think somebody's going to get a steal in round 3 or 4 wherever he does go. I think somebody's going to be very, very happy as long as he gets developed properly.
Right.
Right. He's not a guy who's going to walk into the league like Anthony Richardson did. And okay, I want the ball. Oh no! Oh no! 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 But Kalen Green had 42 games that he played. He had 24 starts and 42 games that he appeared in as a quarterback.
Correct.
Right? So he has enough experience.
He has played a decent amount of football. Correct. And the other things you have to guard against, overreactions, right?
Yeah.
Overreacting to a 40 time, overreacting to what someone does at a pro day or the combine, overreacting to one amazing game, right? And I learned this, at least in part, due to, and I'll wear this, the rest of my life as an evaluator. I had at one point Andre Woodson as QB1. Now later down the line, he was overtaken late, very late, in fact, in the process by one Matthew Thomas Ryan, who is now president of the Falcons. But at the time, of course, he was a player at Boston College. But the difference in their offenses, right? One was running a at least West Coast inspired offense. The other one was playing in Hal Mummy's offense. There were some things that I've learned that would have maybe helped me to be a little more measured in my response to Andre Woodson. But he really had some great games, and I remember in particular a game versus LSU where, if memory serves me correctly, he was I think 28 of 36 for 328 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. And he carved up a very talented LSU defense with a bunch of NFL players on it.
Yeah.
So I overreacted to that game. He had other good games, but that game, which was his best game against a great team, caused me to get a little too high on Andre Woodson that year. You also have to guard against confirmation bias, right? That's why it's important to have cross-checkers and robust debate and essentially challenge people, challenge everyone involved, no matter how senior, how successful they've been in the past, how well they know a particular program or a particular player. Everyone has to be called upon to, to deliver what we call in the academic world, oral defense of your thesis. That is all part of the process.
Which does cause disputes between the scouts and the coaching people. Bill Parcells fired Brian Broada's kids because they disagreed on more than one guy, basically. And there's Brian Broaddus no longer being a scout for the Cowboys, and he now has had just as long a career being a media scout than he did in the NFL, right?
Yes.
But again, it's a battle of wills, right?
Right.
I don't know how Osa Odigizua got past Jerry Jones. I don't understand that, because he can't say Osa Odigizua, right? He just can't. Apparently, he has a very hard time with the name Mulugeta as well. He has a very hard time. He's just that agent. That's all he refers to him as, is that agent. But again, you're dealing with the old white boys who they don't get the names. Much like Jeff, who's very bad at pronouncing the name, right? How many times do we go? No, Jeff, it's this. No, this. It's not that hard. But
right.
When you look at this draft, go to your Steelers at pick 21.
Right.
And when you've done your mocks and all that, because of course I had the selection for the Steelers, so I gave them Ty Simpson. But when you're looking at the board for the Steelers right now, because you don't know if Aaron Rodgers is coming back, right?
Right.
That's why I went Ty Simpson.
So if I were sold on any of the quarterbacks not named Fernando Mendoza, I wouldn't let Aaron Rodgers coming back stop me from drafting a quarterback.
They did take Will Howard last year, so that's the other part of this equation.
Yeah,
how does Will Howard line up?
I would be trying to pry loose a mid-priced young veteran free agent, or even someone who's not a free agent, maybe trading for somebody who's a second or third string quarterback somewhere. Hey, what would you guys need for Trey Lance? But But yes, something like that. One of the maybe a talented project, maybe a, what does it take to pry loose Sam Howell? What does it take to pry loose, somebody like that? Or once again, maybe draft another developmental, quarterback in the later rounds.
Like I would say, hey, if he's available in round 3 for the Steelers, Taylor Green, bingo. I would go all in on Taylor Green. And apparently Drew Eller has looked a whole lot better in the throwing that he's done this offseason.
Right. That's why I think the Steelers might be targeting. If he's there when they pick in the 4th, I don't think they would hesitate to draft him.
Yeah. I still
love him to make it.
I mean, you remember how much laughter Jeff and I had at your expense when Pickett was drafted. I mean, that was just absolutely horrifying. Kenny Pickett was not an accurate quarterback in college. Kenny Pickett had very small hands and all this other sort of stuff that we all kept saying over and over.
And he was an older prospect.
And he was an older prospect as well, right?
Yeah. Once again, if they had drafted him even just 1 round later, I would have been less frustrated.
That would have been fine.
It was very clear that there was not a 1st-round quarterback in that draft.
Yep. And
everyone
really,
else seems to have gotten.
And really, in this year's draft, there is only Fernando Mendoza for me.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah. I did throw Ty Simpson's name out there just to get your goat because I had the Steelers pick, but I don't see any other quarterback that's should be given that 5th-year option this year. I don't see any of them.
Right.
I think you're better off having offensive line, an edge, a corner, even a wide receiver with a 5th-year option than I do a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
of course, next year it's going to be a different ballgame.
Right.
Right.
But I would recommend for teams that are truly quarterback hungry, keep your powder dry outside of obviously the one that's getting Fernando Mendoza, but keep your powder dry for 1 more year. Invest if you have young guys on the roster. Invest in seeing if they might be developed. Invest if you don't have some young guy on the roster that you think might have something to him. Then invest in drafting a developmental quarterback later. Derek Robertson, right? There's lots of guys to be had in day 3 who have something to them, right? That's there to be.
Sawyer Robertson from
Sawyer
Baylor.
Robertson, Derek Robertson.
There's all kinds of guys who could be had later on in this draft, much like the Cowboys did in that 2016 draft when they took 135th overall in the 4th round, Dak Prescott. And my goodness, he ended up being the starting quarterback of the Cowboys. Right. And what was his record that season? Oh. Do you remember the Cowboys record?
The Cowboys, the year that they drafted him?
Yeah, the year that he played.
Right. Was it? Wait, we were still a 16-game season then, right? So it was 10. Was it 10-6?
No. Cowboys?
What did the Cowboys do that year? Oh, wait, hold on. That was like the crater year, right? That was 2016.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Cowboys went 13-3.
13-3, that's right.
Yep. Oh, and the kid was a 4th-round quarterback.
Yes.
Now, of course, the man had a very smart agent who played the franchise tag game with the Joneses, and the Joneses always lose in the franchise tag game.
Yes, right.
And Dak Prescott ends up having the highest paid quarterback until Mr. Mahomes.
Yep.
But again, it's not necessary for you guys to always draft a quarterback in round 1.
Correct.
This year proves this. Bottom line. You've heard me say I don't go for positional value. I don't. And Jeff, of course, last year was always putting the safeties in round one, right? He had safeties, but well, it was lovely of you to do that, Jeff. But this is the year that the safeties are going to go in round one.
This is the year to put at least one in the first round and possibly two. I mean, I think there's a good chance that at least two go, and I think one goes very early in the second. So I think in the top 40 selections, there's 3 safeties off the board, like 3 true safeties, real safeties. And then there's going to be some hybrid guys that go in the top 50 who are semi-safeties. So yeah.
And that's the beautiful thing about this particular draft, because next year it's all going to be, oh God, we got Arch Manning coming out, and we got this guy, and this guy's going to be a savior for my franchise. And I hate the quarterback deep drafts, as you well know. I hate them.
Right.
I really do. I just, it drives me off the deep end when everybody focuses in on the one position only. Yes, the guy touches the ball every down, but you don't consider the 5 guys in front of him, the receivers, the backs. You have to look at the entire team.
Right.
Peyton Manning, how many interceptions did he throw?
The rookie year?
Yeah.
What was it, 24?
24, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 24.
Yeah.
I think he had 7 touchdowns, I think, also.
Yeah.
Balance it out, yeah.
But there he is. He's a Pro Football Hall of Famer and all that other good sort of stuff.
Right.
But again, season 1, he sucked. Absolutely sucked. But his team around him also sucked.
Yes, correct.
And that's the thing that drives me off the deep end as well, is that teams who are always drafting high up in a draft, like the Jets and the Giants lately, and the Jaguars for years and years and years. 10 seasons in a row where they had a top 10 pick?
Yep, correct.
Can you guys get it through your thick heads that you don't need the quarterback? Can you guys finally understand this? You need offensive linemen. You need to build from the line. Nope. That's why Daniel Jones went 6th overall, and it's just that insanity sort of stuff, Bill. So next week, do we actually want to do a quarterback show? Do we really?
I guess we have to, don't we?
Well, we don't have to. We don't have to. I'm against going quarterbacks, but okay. But do we want to do a top 5 of quarterbacks?
Or 10, or whatever the number is. I'll be ready, whatever the number is.
Yeah. All right. Well, next week is going to be my least favorite position to discuss in this year's draft, and it is in most years as well. But yes, we'll discuss.
For those of you that love Grumpy Greg, please tune in to the next.
Please. It's not going to be pretty, okay? Including the guy that everybody keeps talking about that went to the University of Alabama, and I don't understand the hype that he's now receiving. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't buy him being a first-round quarterback. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, once again, the thirst, the hunger, the whatever you want to describe it. There's a desperation around the quarterback position. That's the best way I can put it. And once again, it's back to the don't go shopping when you're hungry. This is how you end up with Kenny Pickett. This is how you end up.
This is how you end up being the Cleveland Browns.
Or the Cleveland Browns, for that matter, right?
I mean, since 1999, how many quarterbacks have they now gone through?
Well, it's. I think it might be 24.
24. Yeah. I mean, and they're just horrible at developing quarterbacks.
Right.
And that's many different coaching staffs.
Yes. Different philosophies, lots of things. I mean, they've changed almost everything but the team colors, and an attempt. And I guess you could even say they've tweaked even that, but they made all these various attempts to try to, Band-Aid. You put a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, basically, and until you have the infrastructure, as you pointed out, to help a young player succeed. They got it right at one point, right, with Baker, Reagan, Mayfield. But they didn't realize, being the Browns, they didn't realize they got it right.
No.
And so if they had just stuck with that, right, if they just had stuck with it and built the team around him, they would be where Tampa Bay is, a consistent contender.
Yep. You know, and again, Baker goes out to the Panthers. The Panthers didn't know what to do with him either.
Correct.
He goes out for that one game with the Rams and is a superstar.
It is amazing. Like that, frankly, there should be a 30 for 30 done about that. The guy had less than 4 days from the moment he finds out he's joining the team to start a football game.
And he was just so good that night. But again, this is a Rams team that had been, to the Super Bowl. And
oh yeah, the Rams team was a really good football team, but still, correctly remember. Now they cut the offense way down, but just to correctly remember where people line up, is amazing.
I mean, and that's that's in 4 days. That was just I don't care. Yeah, that deserves a 30 for 30. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was remarkable. And now, of course, what he's done with the Buccaneers, he's been just fine, right?
Yeah. I'm convinced that if they continue, Jason Light's a good GM. If they continue to build that team as they have, eventually they're going to win a Super Bowl. Probably won't win a bunch of Super Bowls, but I think they can win a Super Bowl if they continue to build that team.
Yeah. Did you see the photos of Levante David on Good Morning Football the other morning?
Yes.
His rookie picture and this year's picture?
Yes.
That guy doesn't age an iota.
No, not a bit.
He has the Fu Manchu thing going on.
Right.
That's the only difference. It's just
that is how you can tell them apart. Yes, that's how you can tell this version from the other version of him that initially entered the league.
Yeah.
And I hope at some point he makes the Hall of Fame.
Oh, I think a 14-year career. I think he's got to be in the Hall of Fame. But again, don't get me going on the Pro Football Hall of Fame because Jeff and I already have done our Dallas Cowboys lists. I've written about Jerry Smith, the great tight end for the Washington Redskins. You have L.C. Greenwood for the Steelers, who I just don't get how that man is not.
Well, I've got people even ahead of him who I can't figure. I mean, Jacob Green had an amazing career, but unfortunately, that was when no one cared about Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah,
Dave Brown is the only member of the 60 interception club who's not in the Hall of Fame.
There's only one member of the Hog Line.
Right. The late great Billy Houghton had 2 of the 3 receiving Triple Crowns at the time he retired, and held on to those 2 until Raymond Berry broke them. Raymond Berry breezed into the Hall of Fame.
Oh, look who's here, Bill. Mr. Jeff and Cornell Green. You're correct.
Oh, yes, of course. Yes. And Cornell Green. Yes, that's another person who's richly deserving of induction. Bobby Boyd is richly deserving of induction, right? The old bald Bobby Boyd from Oklahoma. Terrific football player and could do everything. A guy who would be a all-pro, probably 7 or 8 times as a slot corner if he played nowadays is Pat Fisher. Right, the mountains they called him.
Oh yeah,
pound for pound, maybe the toughest football player of his era because he's about 168 pounds, but he was tough as nails. And he's never sniffed the Hall, Greg. He's never been a finalist.
That's right. No, and John Taylor as well, the 49ers wide receiver, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
He deserves it, but I mean, even more so, they've got a real wide receiver problem. Stanley Morgan, Henry Ellard. Like I could do wide receivers for the next hour. I probably shouldn't. But there's Art Powell, Lionel Taylor.
Look how long it took them to allow Drew Pearson into the Hall of Fame. He was the last player of the all 70s decade team to be in the Hall. Drew Pearson, the guy received the Hail Mary pass. It was just totally bizarre. And Chuck Howley was even worse because here he is, Super Bowl MVP in a losing
MVP on a losing team and the first defensive player ever to win it.
That's right. but the man was so incapacitated with Alzheimer's that he couldn't even make a speech. His son,
I know.
you know, I mean, that
was
is
tragic.
so disgusting.
Yeah.
You know? And again, I don't care if I was running the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I would put a separate date in for all of these veterans who deserve their spot. Don't do it the same weekend that you're doing this year's class. You give them their own spot. You bring these guys before they're all dead and gone.
Yeah, that would be great.
You put them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame like they deserve. It's just disgusting.
Well, as I've said, Greg, you should come hang out with us, the Not in the Hall of Fame crew.
Yeah.
We several times a year go through our own process where we try to figure out how to induct, how to, like, it's hours. It takes many, many hours. Oh, yeah. I've gained a new respect for the actual Hall of Fame voters, though I disagree with what they do. When you see how many rounds of everything you have to go through, it's pack a lunch. It's a grueling process, Greg.
The NHL Hall of Fame is pretty decent. MLB is pretty decent, except of course the steroid era guys. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame is just, and here's another great name as well, Jim Marshall, who belongs in there.
Yes.
It's just so disgusting how all of these great players that you and I grew up watching,
right,
are not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yes.
When we see the talent level of today's players who are first ballot Hall of Famers, and I'm going, really?
Right.
I'm sorry, but you guys play in this soft NFL. I'm talking about the guys that played in the real NFL.
Sure.
We're talking the head slap. We're talking, we're talking tough.
Right.
These guys went out there every bloody weekend.
Right.
And you had to, literally have them strapped down to a gurney to get them not to be on a field.
Right.
These guys deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. That's my bottom line on the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
So again, how many players would you put onto a 7-round board this year for your draft board, Bill?
So if I were doing it for, let's say, the Steelers, I would probably end up with somewhere in the 130s.
Yeah.
I would. And the funny thing is, it would, the numbers would sort of thicken up as we got later into the draft, right? I would probably have 2-3 names, maybe 4 at the most for the first couple. Then we get to the third, fourth, I'd probably have 5 or 6 names.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 7, and then by the time we get 4th through 7th, I might have 12 names, right, for each of those, 12 to 15 names for each of those, because there's so many good football players who will go later this year.
That's right.
I would be just training down like a maniac this year, Greg.
I'm telling you, if those 7 defensive guys are all leaving in the first 11 picks, like these draft mocks have been giving me lately, I'm trading 12, and I'll trade back from 20 as well. You give me those 2nd rounders and 3rd rounders, I'll be happy. I'll be ecstatic with that.
Right. I'm with you.
And yes, rest in peace, Joey Browner, who passed away just the other day.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
What a great player he was as well.
So, all the Browners, man.
Oh yeah.
Ross Browner. You mentioned Joey. Russ, right?
Russ Browner. Yeah.
But there's a Ross and a Russ.
Yeah.
And then I'm forgetting at least one other. There's at least 1 or maybe 2 others, but all of them were great.
All of them. Yeah. Yeah. The whole family.
Yes, correct. It was a whole family of truly great players.
Yeah. But again, like the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the NFL draft is a bunch of misses as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And in 3 years' time, we'll discuss those misses. But
yes, the hits too. We'll miss the hits too. It won't all be negative, kids. I promise.
No. It'll just be me on the quarterbacks, okay? I don't like any of them really.
Right. Yeah, I get that.
Well, No, I do like them. I just don't want them picked that highly. That's
Gotcha. Yep.
And of course next year. Oh no, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare for Greg because
Oh,
I'm going to have
quarterbacks all the time. Yeah.
I'm going to have centers and guards who should be drafted in round one. I'll have linebackers and safeties again, and who should be going around, but no, because it's the quarterback, and every team needs a quarterback. Yeah, okay,
right.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, next Wednesday night we'll do the quarterbacks.
We will.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point,
yeah,
we have to at least mention.
But that's the last position that we've got.
It is. That's why I figured we had at some point have to do it.
No, I've got the top 5 punter show I can do. That's it. I can do a top 5 punter show.
There we go.
Instead of the
punters and place kickers, baby, because kickers are people too.
Oh, I thought I thought I would just honor Pat McAfee by doing a punter show. The place kickers, no. Punter.
Well, Pat McAfee was both, at least in college.
In college, he was, yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's getting closer.
Yes,
we have. What do we have here? 23 days.
23 days. Good Lord, that was fast.
Yeah. Just a little.
Yeah.
And again, we'll sleep in May, okay?
Yes, exactly. Right.
We sleep come May, because, of course, this does take up a fair amount of time for Mr. Bill Carroll and myself and Randall Slifer, who will be back next week.
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion about how an NFL draft board is different from the boards that most scouts actually use. Okay. Like I said, that 7-round board for the Cowboys in 2016 had 149 players on it. And there was 251 guys drafted that year.
Yes, correct.
So, again, and that falls to scheme and all that other fun sort of stuff that we discussed as well, right?
Right. Everything from height, weight, speed stuff to medicals to this is guy, what we call a 3 a.m. phone call guy, right? So
see, now this is what I'm worried about, because Christian Parker has already gotten in smaller guys in the secondary, and I'm going, if there's smaller guys allowed, that means there's a whole lot more corners and safeties who are going to be eligible for the Cowboys board this year.
Correct.
And that's just on defense.
Right.
100%.
And that's the thing, you as you delve into teams drafting philosophies, you figure out which teams have guidelines and guardrails, right? And like I said, a guideline it's a strong suggestion, basically, right? But a guardrail is a little firmer, right? If you want to present a player who doesn't match with where doesn't fall within our guardrail, you better be prepared to, Atticus Finch this thing because
Darrell Green would never have been on the Cowboys board because of his
correct. They're not the only team. There are multiple teams that would not have had Darrell Green on their board, especially nowadays, right? There are multiple teams that wouldn't have had Anthony Munoz on their board at all, right? Because of the bad knees.
And what did I say a couple of years ago about Ardarius Washington?
Right.
I said that this kid would be a very good safety in the NFL. He was 5'7", and everybody was, no, you don't know what you're talking about. And really? Did you watch him play for the Ravens?
Right. And we just talked about Randy Moss. Now, I don't know if he'd be all the way off many teams' boards, but there are many teams that wouldn't touch him in the first.
Well, I mean, the Cowboys and the Eagles, who were picking, I think that year they were back-to-back.
I think you might be right.
And neither one of them, because of his off-field issues.
Correct.
And like I said before, Michael Irvin would never have had the career-ending injury that he had in Philadelphia had Randy Moss been on that field with him at that time.
Sure.
Sure. So
and Mike had a few of his off-field issues of his own coming out of college for those.
Well, exactly.
who followed his career. But
that was the biggest reason why Randy Moss did not become a member of the Cowboys.
Right.
It was because of the Michael Irvin situation and the White House and all that other BS that they all had going on. Well, then you controlled your players better. I'm sorry, that whole scheme of things. It was basically a lack of leadership from the coaching staff, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah, hard to argue that.
And you do not allow. I don't care how good you, Michael Irvin. No, sir, you're not going to that. You're not going out to that club. No, you're not. You're not going there. You're going home. You're going home. You have a career. You want to keep this career? You stay at home.
Right.
And we'll put a security guard out there if we have to. It was just insanity. But again, these things happen in the wild world of the NFL, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
So, all right, everybody, take care. We'll be back.
Will see you in 1 week.
Next Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern Time. Do like and subscribe to the channel. That is how a small guy survived. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah. So take care, everybody.